Welcome back to Fully Loaded. I am your host, JC Cornell, with Samer Ali. As always, Bucs fans, last week I introed this show and told you to go on the internet to find us. So this week I'm going to have Samer tell you where to find us. Samer, where are we at?
Oh, listen, Fully Loaded is now officially part of the 813. That means you can find us not only on our new YouTube channel, which you're obviously watching, but we also have all of our videos, including the loose cannons, moneyline dogs, inside the 813, and so much more on our website that you can watch without having to leave the site, obviously, the813.tv. So make sure you guys check out the site, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on our new channel, and check us out on socials. We got a ton of cool content that comes out throughout the day, every single day, whether it's Rock Riley from One Buck, whether it's James Yarko, Jarrett, making ridiculously amazing articles, and also JC, myself, and a host of other content creators who are making 2 to 3 minute snapshot videos of what's going on in the Buccaneers world that live on our site as well as our social. So make sure you check us out there. And by the way, that's on the internet, just in case you were wondering.
It is on the internet. Thank you, Samer, the true pros pro here in Samer Ali. Guys, Broncos are in town at Ray J. I'm bringing my son to his first ever Bucs game, and I am predicting a bloodbath. James Yarko mentioned that this could be a trap game. This is not a trap. I don't care what you say. They are going to beat the brakes off the Broncos. They have nowhere near our talent level. Samer, what are you thinking?
But I think that's why he's calling it a trap game, that he's afraid that the Bucs are going to take it lightly. But everything that we heard from Todd, from Mike, from Baker, these guys have continued the professional business-like approach, and they understand that the game in front of us is a game that matters the most. So I'm not worried about it.
There's past Buccaneers teams with different coaches, different players, and we got so used to these trap games because they happened every time. A rookie quarterback throws for 400 yards against us. Like, that stuff used to happen. Bo Nix is going to struggle. Bo Nix is going to go against a Todd Bowles defense. Todd's going to blitz the crap out of him. He's going to be under pressure. The one thing I'll say, if you remember the Washington game, when the plays were dead, Jaden Daniels was able to use his legs to gain yards, and that was basically all they could do. I could see a similar situation. Bo Nix has plenty of athleticism, has good speed. He could do the same kind of thing Jaden Daniels did to us, but that's the only thing I'm really worried about with that offense.
Yeah, the other difference, though, from that game from week 1 to week 2, Servassier Dennis didn't play as much faster than KJ Britt. And again, it was the first week of the season, so angles, tackling, reaction times, a little bit rusty, coming off very, very limited play for the majority of the starters in the preseason. Going into a game like this, think about this. What the Bucs defense was able to do to a guy like Jared Goff and an offensive line like the Detroit Lions, going up against Bo Nix in his third ever start, a guy who's thrown 4 picks in 2 weeks, has no touchdown passes, hasn't been able to complete passes over 5 yards. I think the worst in the entire league over 5 yards passing, which is insane. They're going into a much different scenario than the Lions. So if you look at what they were able to do against the Lions, I think the Bucs defense has a really good chance here to kind of tee up and just go to town on this offense that has struggled mightily under Sean Payton, especially this year with a rookie quarterback. And a lot of it has to do with Sean not adjusting for his rookie. And so I think those struggles will continue against Todd Bowles. And he mixes up those 5-man rushes, dude, the way he did against the Lions. Bo Nix is going to have a very, very, very long day.
Yeah, I think, and that's something we're looking for in this game. We want to see Chris Broswell. We want to see JTS. We want to see Yaya have big games. I really do think Yaya Diaby has a breakout game. He's had a ton of pressure all season, but he hasn't got to the quarterback for a sack yet. I think that changes in this game. I could see Yaya having 2 sacks in this game. I could see JTS having a sack, and hopefully Broswell, welcome to the NFL, gets a sack. I wanted to move on.
Well, JC, to that point, they're without their starting right tackle, who might be the best guy on their offensive line. So
correct.
The Bucs have a chance to set the tone early. If we win the toss, I hope
McGlinchey from Michigan,
whatever his name is. But Todd Bowles has a chance. If he wins the coin toss, defer, put your defense out there, have them go out there, make that first punch, and I think the Bucs are rolling after that. It could be a turnover right off the bat. So we'll see.
I guess I'll say one more thing. I don't know if you've noticed this, Samer. And I noticed this last game with Izzian and Whitehead at safety with Winfield out. Izzian Izzy and Whitehead might be the most jacked
Yeah.
safety tandem. Dude, they're like bodybuilders back there. Like, I would not want to get hit by either of those guys.
Izzy doesn't even have a neck. He just got just traps come out of like his jawbone. He kind of looks like that. You remember that meme of that guy who got arrested or got in trouble or something like a couple years ago? We had like just his neck just came out and it was just ridiculous. He looks like a mountain back there. He's so ridiculously jacked. Absolutely. I didn't notice it because I forgot about Jordan Whitehead being so damn cut. And I remember
these guys get drug tested for steroids and stuff. Like, these guys are like eating beef liver and stuff. I don't know, creatine, beef liver. I don't know what they're eating for breakfast. But
Izzy looks like he's on that carnivore diet where it's just like raw meat all day long.
So much, tons of meat. All right, moving on.
Pause.
Moving on. Liam Coen had a press conference. My favorite quote from it was he wants to demoralize defenses with this offense. Obviously, it's very similar to the Rams offense, and we have guys like Chris Godwin playing that Cooper Kupp role, who is so effective in it. Really, Godwin only had 2 touchdowns last season. I think Godwin absolutely flourishes. This is besides the point. I do think Jason and Greenberg are going to be working on an extension for Godwin during this season, just similar to how Vita Vea was re-signed by them during the season. You got to keep Godwin. I know we talked about how McMillan could be the replacement, but the reality is we got to get Godwin back. We got to get a good deal for him. Hopefully takes a hometown discount so we can keep that core of Mike Evans, Godwin, and McMillan moving forward.
I mean, it seems to be the MO of these guys. Baker took a little bit of a discount. Mike took a little bit of a discount. And if they continue the trajectory they're on at the end of the year, they're going to be like, we're in a championship window. It makes no sense to let him go. It makes no sense to let him get price out of our price range as well. So making that deal throughout the season makes a lot of sense. To the point about Liam Coen, I mean, is there nothing more obvious about him wanting to score points and demoralize people than in that week 1 game when I've noted there was 3 minutes left in the game. We're up 30-14, and he threw the ball into the end zone to make it 37-4. I mean, that right there, demoralizing defenses. He talked about in his press conference that a guy like Baker being able to be under pressure, you were about to get that sack, and for him to scramble out and get a first down and kind of change the momentum of the drive demoralizes the defenses, and it matches up with what he likes to do. He talked about how he set up the Chris Godwin screen from week 1. Yeah, we talked about how he set up the play to I can't remember, but he's setting up from week to week, which is something we haven't seen here in a very long time, since the BA days, honestly. So, having a guy back there who actually is trying to destroy you is so refreshing compared to what we had last year with Dime Piece Dave.
I was going to say, you can go all the way back to the Gruden days with Greg Olson as offensive coordinator. We've had, Byron Leftwich with Tom Brady and BA, but like even that offense, they weren't like shoving it down your throat. Cohen's a breath of fresh air, like I've said before, and he really has the scheme to put up so many points on the board with this offense. And I think it's going to be a fun, dangerous year for this offense.
Yeah, I don't know about this weekend in terms of,
we're going to talk about that in a second.
Yeah. But yeah, for sure. I think they're building. They're building for sure.
Next topic, Luke Odecki, 2 weeks in a row for concussion protocol, which is, I don't know what happened to him. I don't think anyone knows exactly how it happened, but Skull is going to be back at right tackle, which somewhat, neuters the Liam Coen offense. You have to chip people because you have to help this guy out. I'm not too worried about the edge rushers for the Broncos. This is not Aiden Hutchinson rushing against Skull, but Skull looked terrible, and it kind of vanillas the offense a little bit with him at right tackle. Hopefully Godecki gets back ASAP.
Well, here's the thing. Liam spoke about how he didn't do a good job as a coach to help him out at times. And then eventually he got his...
That's just a mature thing to say.
I get it, but at times he was kind of right. I think he maybe underestimated how quickly Hutchinson was going to beat him. And so it blew up a couple of plays in our face. And also, you're not going to be able to ask most tight ends in the NFL to be able to block that guy one-on-one. We're not facing a guy of his caliber this week in the Broncos, but they do have a decent edge rusher. They also have the guy in the middle there. I can't remember his name. I just wrote about him too. Who is going to give them fits up the middle. But this defense is not very good at stopping the run. So the Bucs offense and Skule should have a better day, should have a more balanced day. And you know what? It's not the worst thing to have this backup swing tackle have another day under his belt, another game under his belt. You never know when he's going to need to pop in for a series or somebody goes down or something happens, knock on wood. But I think it's also good for him to come out there and, build on what he did last week, not to have that bad taste in his mouth. And I think with Gadecki, I don't know what's going on. It's a little odd. I mean, what kind of concussion you have for 2 weeks. But if my memory serves me correctly, he had this last year or the year before where he also had a concussion issue that went for 2 or 3 weeks. So I don't know if they're erring on the side of caution or if he's just not passing this concussion protocol. But I guess he still goes through one more test on Saturday, so it's not for sure, but more than likely he's not playing. But I'm sure you're like me, JC. Let these guys sit for this extra week where you're going against a team like the Broncos. Get ready for a division opponent. Get ready for the Eagles. Teams down the road that matter a little bit more, where you really need those guys.
So I'm just going to speculate, like knowing Gadecki and his personality, it might have not been caught on camera, but during that week 1 win, he might have just headbutt someone on the sideline, with no helmet on, just classic, just huge headbutt. Like if I had to guess, that would probably be what happened.
Could you imagine if you cost your team a couple of weeks of playing time because you headbutted someone on the sideline? I mean, they're probably like, "Hey, Luke, cut it out. You can't do that anymore." I know you get jacked. Baker gets you going and all, but like you can't headbutt Baker Mayfield when Baker's wearing a helmet and you're not. It's just not happening.
Yeah. So moving on, Tom Moore was on the Pat McAfee show. Samer's going to drop a video so you guys can see it.
How do you feel about Baker Mayfield as your quarterback? Obviously, he's had a long road to get to where he is now, seemingly playing his best ball at home in Tampa. What are your thoughts on him since you met him a couple years ago there in Tampa and now?
Love Baker. Would go to war with Baker anytime, anywhere. He's a competitor. He's smart. He studies. He prepares. He gives you everything that you need to win. He's a great person and a great athlete.
If you had to compare some of his qualities or traits to those of the past that you have coached, and I listed them off in your introduction, but Peyton, Tom, Terry Bradshaw. Now, obviously, you start talking about the greats of the game. You've been around them. Whatever you see of Baker, is there like qualities you see immediately that make you think of a player that you coached previously that was great, or are each of these guys different in their own right?
Well, each of them are different in their own right. Each of them has their specialty. One thing Baker does that the other three didn't do is he's a pretty good runner. Once he gets trapped and makes some plays with his feet. Of course, with Tom and Terry and Peyton, they're pretty much pocket passers, stayed in the pocket. You didn't put in the RPOs and things like that, but you didn't have to because their strength was throwing the football.
But it got me fired up, man. Tom Moore still on this coaching staff after how many years has he been in this league? And the coolest thing, what he said was he's putting Baker up there with these guys like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, these guys he's coached. And he said the different thing about Baker compared to these other guys is that Baker's got the legs. Baker can run. Baker's athletic. And Baker has a cannon for an arm. It's cool to see a guy like Tom Moore with all his experience really embrace and love Baker Mayfield.
It just speaks to what we've been saying about Baker. Since the day he got here, he was his authentic self, and guys just gravitate towards him. They follow him. They want to fight for him. And to be able to follow Tom Brady's shadow, you have to be a special kind of guy, personality-wise, to be able to bring people out of it. And Baker kind of spoke about it on, I think, a podcast or maybe even during a press conference where he talked about how when he got to the Bucs, because of Tom Brady's rigidness and like very attention to detail type of approach and his leadership style, a lot of these guys were kind of on edge, not having fun as much. And you kind of sense that in that last Tom Brady season, especially towards the end. And him coming in there being Baker, playing around, talking shit, having fun, like running down and talking smack after play against, a defensive player, which is something you don't do as a quarterback. I think it changed the environment. It changed what it felt like to play ball, for the rest of these guys and to be able to follow him. And man, it's just he's unique. He's really Baker Mayfield all the time. And to hear a guy like Tom Moore say that, and it speaks volumes, especially when so many people like 33rd Team and other guys like that across the media landscape talk shit about this kid and just don't give him his props and refuse to talk about him in the top 10 discussion. Whereas a guy like Tom Moore, who's coached legends, has no problem putting him in that conversation, putting him in the same breath as those guys. Not saying he's Tom Brady, but he sees what happens in that locker room. He sees what he brings to a huddle. It's special, man. It's time to acknowledge that for some of these people out here who have been hating on him.
Baker Mayfield was on the podcast that was just released, and some of the stuff he said was pretty interesting. He was talking about Tom Brady when he was the quarterback in Tampa before Baker was here. And he said, the atmosphere was very tense. It was very serious. Brady would get pissed and throw passes in the dirt at people's feet. Brady, he was, intense. I mean, it was not that fun. And what he's saying is one of the coolest things with Baker is you watch him at practice and he warms up with the offensive linemen. He's just a bro's bro. And these guys love playing for him and they're motivated to play with Baker under center. He brings that energy that you need to have fun, but also that energy to win games and dominate games. So yeah, Oklahoma Baker is awesome, man. I love him.
Apparently Oklahoma Baker never left, right? Oklahoma Baker took a nap when he was traveling between Carolina and LA, and then he finally got to Tampa and he's like, hey, wake up. I think we found our town. And we got him, dude. We got him back. He's a little bit more mature because now he's got a daughter, so maybe he's not dropping as many F-bombs, but man, I like Oklahoma Baker. I was a huge fan of Oklahoma Baker back in the day. So to have him back here, dude, I'm just waiting for him to take that Buccaneers flag from one of those flag runners after we beat the Saints and just plant it right in the middle. Yeah. It's going to be amazing, dude. Can't wait for that.
And then Mike Evans comes out of nowhere because Lattimore's pissed and just knocks Lattimore out.
A whole Jameis Winston, Tom Brady scenario.
Crazy.
The whole deal. Lenny will somehow run in off the sidelines because he'll be there as a special guest on the sideline, and it'll just be a whole thing, man.
Before we get to the next topic, there was some very positive stuff put out on the Bucs being a top 10 team. Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, put, I believe, the Bucs as the number 3 team in power rankings. There's some other ones. There's some guy on the 33rd team ranked the quarterbacks in the league right now and put Baker at 16 or 17, which is such a joke. Did Baker sleep with your girlfriend before he was married? What happened there?
Oh, like a Matthew Stafford scenario. I don't know. So what's interesting about Florio is he's typically hated us, but I think he just doesn't like BA. So I think now that BA is not as involved with everything, that he's kind of stopped being that guy. But I still don't like him. But it was interesting that he put us number 3, but not only number 3, but we were the top ranked NFC team as well, which is kind of funny because we kind of discussed that earlier in the week. Are the Bucs the best team in the NFC? At the end of the day, we don't know yet, but I feel like how the Niners have kind of stubbed their toes.
Did have us as the top team in the NFC, though, in these rankings.
I mean, you beat the Lions like that, and then the Niners have struggled, and then they stubbed their toe against a Vikings team that they should have destroyed. Cost me some money on that. But when you see that happen, it's like, what else can you conclude at this point in the season? They are the best team in the NFC.
Our guy Tom Brady put out his power rankings, and he had Kansas City 1, Buffalo 2, Tampa Bay Buccaneers number 3 in the league. So that's cool to see, man.
Pretty wild.
Back to the Broncos game. I think it's going to be a game where we score early and then it turns into the Rashad and Bucky show. I think even with Skull at right tackle, I think last week Baker Mayfield led the team in rushing with 34 yards. Different story this week. I think Rashad has 100 yards rushing and receiving combined. I think this is a big game. I think Bucky's going to pop a couple long runs, just like week 1 against Washington. These guys, we need them to control the clock, control the Broncos, tire them out, and get this W.
Yeah, this is going to be the first week in these 3 weeks so far in the NFL season where the Bucs are not facing a top-notch run-stuffing defense. The Washington Commanders, that defense is nothing to scoff at. People are going to make fun of their record, the rookie quarterback, the whole thing. They're very good at stopping the run, and that's just a fact. Then you go up to the Lions. They have DJ Ritter in the middle there. They have Reader, sorry. They have the horses to stop the run, and they're one of the best at stopping the run right there with the Bucs, and they struggled, and it showed. Obviously, doesn't help that it's Graham Barton's second time playing in the NFL. Also, hadn't played center since his freshman year at Duke, so he's getting his legs underneath him. But he shows promise, and he has really good reps as well. This will be the first time they get to do it against a defense that they should be able to dominate and get some good reps in and get some juice flowing between the offensive line. Even without their starting right tackle, I think the interior of this line should have themselves a day as long as they kind of circle those guys. I think they have a linebacker that Singleton. He's leading the team in tackles so far after 2 weeks. Big part of their run stuffing approach, but they're not good at stopping the run. So yeah, it should be the Rashad and Bucky show early and throughout the entire game. They should be able to open some holes. They should be able to allow Liam to get in his bag and get creative and start to kind of formulate that physical identity. Because I think if they can do it against this team, then there's really some solid hope that they can build throughout the season against these other guys that they're going to be facing.
Yeah, so obviously injuries this week. We're missing some guys, which is smart to sit some of these guys in this game because it should be a cupcake. Let's knock on wood, but this is really a game to get ready for these next two games coming up. Get ready for the Eagles game. Get ready for the Falcons game. Sharpen the offense up. Get more reps with the new Liam Coen offense. That's basically it. I think this is a bloodbath, Sammer.
Yeah, I don't see any scenario where the Bucs stub their toe against this team, man. It's just like I said, I think the running game is really going to help open up some things for them on the offensive side. They'll be able to get more comfortable, and they're going to be able to do a lot of what they want to do. Mike Evans will be going up against a top-notch corner, but that just opens up everybody else. That opens up McMillan. It opens up Trey Palmer. Obviously, it opens up Chris Godwin, who looks like he's the number one option on a lot of these route trees. They're building like the Cooper Kupp role for him. But when Mike is one-on-one, he obviously supersedes that. And he becomes
anytime Mike is one-on-one, he's going to go to Mike.
And that's the thing is Liam is scheming up scenarios where the defense has no choice. And if they don't double, if they don't go one-on-one, somebody else gets, it's a pick your poison type scenario with this. That's what makes it so fun to watch. And I don't care what corner is matched up on Mike. I'm throwing the ball up to Mike one-on-one.
It's Pat Surtain. It doesn't matter. It's Mike Evans. Yeah. But also, if defenses really hone in on focusing on stopping Evans and stopping Godwin, that's where you're going to see McMillan grow and start making big plays as the season goes on. McMillan, I guarantee, rookies always start a little slow, and then they get the hang of things. The game slows down, and they start making breakout plays. So I wouldn't be surprised to see McMillan have a long touchdown in this game. But speaking of that, I wanted to move on to my Bucs prop bets this week. And we can talk about this after I give them out. I really love these bets, and I'm going to start with the Bucs -6.5. I think that's easy. Moneyline dogs, both Jake and I's lock of the week was Bucs -6.5. Feel very good about that number. I'm going to start out with, for props, Baker over 10.5 yards rushing. Baker was over 9.5 last week in the first quarter. Clearly, Coen is calling quarterback draws for Baker to actually run the ball. I don't know what Vegas is thinking here with the 10.5 yards, because I think that's a very easy bet that probably hits in the first half.
It's one rush from a defensive end. He escapes, and he's getting. I think he hit that 9.5 in the first quarter against the Lions. So it was an easy one.
First 3 minutes of the game.
Yeah, it was easy.
I got Baker over 241.5 yards passing in this game. I think a majority of that will happen in the first three quarters. That is not my favorite bet, but I do think it will hit. Evans, Godwin, screen passes to Godwin, screen passes to Rashad. Like I said, McMillan on a long touchdown pass or a breakout pass to McMillan in the game. Not my favorite, but I do think it will hit. But this next one is juicy. And I don't know if anyone's paying attention to the Bucs because they usually don't. But Chris Godwin over 60.5 yards receiving. That just seems, like you said, Godwin seems to be the number one option on this team. And 60 yards, I would almost go take an alternate bet that Godwin goes over 100 receiving. But let's temper our expectations and just go with Godwin over 60.5.
He's got 200 yards after 2 weeks, dude. I mean, him and Nico Collins, he's killing it. And his targets, I believe, are 100%. It's pretty intense. It's pretty wild watching him play, man. And that number is, how are they watching these first 2 weeks and thinking that that's not going to continue? I mean, he had it on one play. In the first half, he hit it last week, so it wasn't even close.
He hit in the first half last week.
Yeah.
So the next one is another Chris Godwin. Godwin over 5.5 receptions. So if you notice, Cooper Kupp and other Puka Nacua, people that play this role easily hit 8 to 10 receptions because they're getting 13, 14, 15 targets in the game playing this role. I love that bet. I think that could hit through 3 quarters. I wouldn't be surprised if Godwin had 8 or 9 receptions in this game.
Yeah, they're not going to have Patrick Surtain on him. They're going to have him focus on Mike most likely, and then it's whoever else they have trying to cover Chris Godwin, who's a wide receiver 1 on 31 other NFL teams. So what are we talking about here? You can argue that, by the way. But, yeah, I mean, again, what are they watching? What is Vegas watching for them to even go with these?
So my last prop for this parlay is Bo Nix over 22.5 yards rushing. I say this because it reminds me a little bit of the Commanders game where the plays were dead and Jaden Daniels just scrambled. I could see Bo Nix scrambling a little bit. Even though we have Dennis, who's a faster linebacker, I could see Nix having maybe a 10-yard run or a couple 4-yard runs that actually add up to the end of the game to be over 22.5 yards rushing. So this is a 6-game prop parlay plus $2,000. $100 wins $2,000. And like I've said before on social, on Moneyline Dogs, you do not have to parlay this. You can take these as single bets. So like Baker, 10.5 yards rushing, single bet that. If it's $10 for you, you're going to win $10. Like, be responsible, but like you don't have to parlay. Parlays are dangerous. You make a lot of money, but single bets are safer and you can still make good money.
You can also pick and choose from what you just listed off and just make your own. But you know,
that's what I mean.
3-leg, 4-leg, or just do them one
and
at
I was
time.
going to say, if I wanted to make this a 7-game parlay, I would add Yaya Diaby over 0.5 sacks.
Oh,
so
what?
that means Diaby just needs 1 sack in the game.
I would replace the passing yards for Baker with that.
I would actually. That might be a good idea.
Yeah,
replace 241.5 for Baker, and you replace that with Diaby with 1 sack.
Yeah, because I think they're going to use
Sammer.
this.
Look at Sammer being the expert here.
I think they're going to use this as a get right run game type of game for the Bucs offense, where they're going to take advantage of the defense that the Broncos are.
Also remember what you said earlier in the podcast, that Liam Cohen's throwing it when they're up 30 points.
I know, I get it. I don't know if he'll go over 200. What is it, 241 you said? Or 231?
241.5.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he'll do, just because I think they're going to really push the envelope with the run game just to get themselves on track and even just get extra reps in, because they're going to be going against some better defenses coming up, and this is a good, tune-up game. It's like playing Bethune-Cookman, in week 1 as a Florida State. Well, not this year's Florida State team, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
for the most part.
Keys to victory for the Bucs. This is pretty easy for me. I think the Bucs need over 100 yards rushing in this game. Obviously controlling the clock. And then really my other key to victory is the edge rushers need to get to Bo Nix. They need sacks. They haven't been finishing sacks. JTS, Yaya, get after the quarterback, get him sacked, get your numbers up. And I think you control Bo Nix. You spy Bo Nix with Dennis if you have to. But just, those are my keys.
Yeah. So my keys to victory are basically the same thing on both sides, man. Just control the trenches. Just dominate in the trenches. That's really the ball game here. They struggle on offense, this team. The Broncos, they are not a good offensive team at all. They have a rookie quarterback. They don't have a run game that's going to help him. They have struggled running the ball all season long. Even against opponents they should be able to run the ball against. The Bucs, even with Greg Gaines in the middle there and C.J. Brewer and these guys, they've proven that they can stop the run. So I think dominate in the trenches, which I think will end up with sacks and will end up with tackles for loss, and dominate in the trenches on the side, which is just shove the ball down their throats, run the ball, get Rashad and Bucky going, get this run game lathered up, heading into a really, really hard stretch of games against teams who I think the Bucs should be able to beat, teams that people circled and said we would lose to. But I'm sorry, the Atlanta Falcons, the Eagles, these aren't the teams that everyone thought they were. You could see that. It might still be early because the Falcons are trying to, get acclimated. But at the end of the day, in this game, dominate the trenches on both sides, and the Bucs should have a pretty easy victory. I predicted on the Loose Cannons last night that we would see Kyle Trask play in this game and actually throw passes because that's how soon he'd be in the game. So I would anticipate some Kyle. Is Kyle Trask a prop bet option? Maybe that's Kyle Trask over 1 pass. There you go.
Ooh, that would be like plus 2,000.
Yeah, that'd be ridiculous, right? But I do think the Bucs have they have every advantage. Don't take this team lightly, which I don't think they will. Dominate in the trenches, and this should be an easy dub.
So, Sammer, where can they find us on the internet?
On the internet. We live on the internet now. Check us out on the813.tv. And, of course, on this brand new YouTube channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and you know what? Share this with your friends, other Bucs fans. The more that we can build in terms of the subscriber list, the more features we can unlock, the better stuff we can put out, and the more content we can, have some fun with. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment, your keys to victory, below the video, below the description. And, of course, follow us on all of our socials. And check out the site. We got an amazing set of writers that are putting out content every single day. There's videos from all of us. And, of course, all of our shows and episodes live on the site, so you don't have to navigate through YouTube. So check us out, the813.tv. JC, your kid's going to the game. My kid's going to the game. This is going to be a blast.
We might be taking the Sprinter van together.
We're taking the Bucs Sprinter up. This is going to be a blast. This is going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
So I had one last thing I wanted to say. One cannon fire question for Sammer.
Okay, go ahead.
Will Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and Yaya Diaby have a sack in this game against Denver?
I think they're each going to have 2 sacks. So I think 4 from the outside. Yeah, I think they're there, man. I think the pressures have been there for both of them. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is playing the best ball of his career, and he had, I believe, 1.5 sack with a sack fumble in that week 1 against an offensive line in the the Commanders that struggled, and they're going against a very similar team here with a rookie quarterback who, while he's athletic, is not as sharp as he should be because his offense is much more difficult than what Jane Daniels had. So, yeah, I'd go as far as saying they each have 2 sacks. So, boom, can't fire that. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, this is going to be fun. Denver this weekend. We will talk to you after the Broncos victory. Or not the Broncos victory, sorry, the Buccaneers victory against the Broncos. Whoa!
Well, Broncos win. That's what we call it, right?
Please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter or X, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Yes, sir. Go Bucs.